Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Clink Different session this morning. Clink Different is a little different kind of a thing. Some of you might ask, why do we do Bordeaux and Germany together? These different, totally different regions, but if you look at them more closely, you'll discover that there are really some fascinating parallels. They share history, amazing landscape, culture, culinary passions, and a modern outlook on the wine traditions of old. There's more to these renowned regions than meets the eye. Stunning red wines from Germany, delicious white wines from Bordeaux. Explore surprising styles, discover unparalleled wine sipping destinations, and dive into your culinary culture. Today, we have done, this is our second session, and we're really focusing on some of the areas that you might not have heard of in Germany and Bordeaux, and also to let you know that they do make other things besides $100 bottles of Bordeaux and just Riesling. My name is Jay Fletcher. I am the Executive Director of Fine Wine for Southern Wine and Spirits in Colorado, former chairman of the Court of Master Sommeliers and founder of the SommFoundation. And the SommFoundation is a nonprofit that does our mission really is to assist in the education and professional development of people working in the wine and spirits business. We help professionals develop their skills, knowledge, and competency through scholarships, mentorships, and enrichment opportunities. And each year we award over about 150,000 in scholarships and provide enrichment experience to hundreds of professionals. Prior to COVID, we were sending people to trips around the world. We did 22 to 30 trips every single year. And of course, since COVID, we've been doing these virtual runs. Today, we are going to speak with three different German winemakers. We have Ernie Loosen from Dr. Loosen, Andreas Hütwohl from von Winning, Hans and Edel Ziereisen from the Ziereisen winery, Jonathan Ducourt from Château Briot. We have Pauline Lapierre from Château Haut-Rian, and we have Philippe de Poyferré from Château Loudenne. So we got some great wines for you to taste and great wine people, winemakers and professionals today. And our co-host today is Greg Van Wagner. Greg is the director of wine for the renowned Jimmy's restaurant in Aspen, Colorado. Greg has developed SommGeo, which is basically a kind of a Google Earth mapping of all the wine areas of the world. Greg is a brilliant educator, passed all three parts of the Master Sommelier on his first time, and he is a great part of the SommFoundation. So that getting us started here, let's, I guess we're going to jump right in and go to the false with von Winning. And Greg will give us a little overview of the false, and then we can jump into the wine. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so much, Jay. It's great to be here, and I hope that SommGeo can help everybody to really dial in, where these different wine regions are, and really get a feel for maybe the difficulties in viticulture and just how amazing these wines are and what makes them truly unique. This presentation, it's part of a larger platform, SommGeo, which covers the whole world, that everybody on this call, participants, you'll have access to for 1 year. And without further ado, yeah, we'll go right over to Europe.
Greg, I think we can go into Loosen if you want to go in that order, because yeah. I think someone has clicked in here. I think there we go. So go ahead and go to the Mosel first, and we can go in the order so that we can keep everybody kind of on the same page.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll head over to Europe. We'll be heading straight over to the Mosel. But first, to kind of just get the lay of the land in general, we're talking about the great wine regions of Germany, as well as Bordeaux, the classic wine region of France. And the Clink Different campaign is always really interesting to me. Not only is it about wine styles that, you don't typically associate with, whether it's Bordeaux or Germany, but it's also about producers that are doing really modern wines and really expressive wines, and taking over from other generations and providing a ton of excitement in these regions that are, have such amazing tradition in the wine world. So just to get the lay of the land as we go off, we'll be talking the great wines of Bordeaux on the Dordogne and Garonne rivers, just south of Cognac. As you can see, just a little bit north of northwest France. Off to the east, we have the Languedoc, the Roussillon, the southern and northern Rhone, and of course the line from Champagne, Burgundy, Chalanet, Maconnais, Beaujolais, kind of headed on down the way. Some of the great cities of France, Bordeaux, I would definitely include as one of them. It's been a couple years since I've been, but one of my absolute favorite places in France to go, and such an amazing, vibrant city. You see Paris towards the top, but we're really talking about that western Atlantic side of France today. And we'll also head up to Germany. And here are 13 main wine regions of Germany. You can see a couple other regions just to the north, but by and large, this kind of southwestern corner of Germany really has the vast majority of the vineyards in the country. And just some of the classic cities of Germany. There you saw in the Mosel, we have Trier. Likely to get to a lot of these regions, you'll fly into Frankfurt. It's one of the best international airports that you can get to, and you can be in the Pfalz, you can be in the Rheinhessen or the Mosel or the Nahe or the Rheingau within about 2 hours. So it's a really, really great area to get to. And we'll be visiting 3 different producers today. So we'll go from the Mosel, and then if you look at this, one interesting thing to see, in the lower right-hand corner, you have the latitude. So we'll go quite a bit. We're at about 47.5. But we'll go all the way up to Dr. Loosen at well over 50. And then the Pfalz with Von Vinning, kind of more just a little bit south of that at about 49.25. But our first stop with Loosen. So we're headed up to the Mosel, the classic wine region, one of the classic wine regions of Germany, where it's really known for this Kabinett style, these wines that are light in alcohol, beautifully fresh, really mineral driven, really clean, really expressive wines. And these 2 corners of the Mosel are basically ground zero in the Mosel. I mean, you have a string of villages and vineyards that is really unparalleled elsewhere. You have Bernkastel Kues, which if you visit the region, it's a very, very reasonable spot to stay. Definitely a great spot to form the base. I know a couple years ago when I actually visited Dr. Loosen, we were able to walk from the town over to our visit, which is always nice. But this corner of the Mosel has really one of the greatest selection of top vineyards of anywhere. You have Bernkastel Doctor, Birkenstaller Bobstube, you have Gracher Ley, Gracher Himmelreich, Gracher Domprost, and then Wehlen Sonnenuhr, Zeltenden Sonnenuhr, Erzsager Wirtsgarten, Erdener Treppken, Erdener Ley. It's really an incredible area with amazing amount of great wine packed into a small area. The Berggren Landshut Castle, definitely worth a check out. You can see the town of Bernkastel just below, and this is really just perched up on the hill that dates back to the 10th century. But we'll be headed into the wines of Dr. Loosen, and specifically tasting the Wehlen Sonnenuhr vineyard, which you can see just highlighted behind. This right here, that's the village of Grach, and then Gracher Himmelreich, and Gracher Domprost, Birkenstaller Doctor, Birkenstaller Ley, really just all on this one kind of contiguous hillside. Really incredible estate. Here's the vineyard itself, where we have the famous sundials that were used to help workers tell time throughout the years. And then the estate, I really love these wines, huge fan, and it was definitely a great visit as well. They have such history, but really this is a modern estate that are producing just beautiful wines from a lot of vines that are well over 100 years old, and many of them which are uncrafted, which is very, very cool to see. And I'm excited to get into this tasting, and I'll hand it back to Jay.
Well, thank you, Greg. Dr. Lozen, I've had the opportunity to be there, one of the largest producers in the Bern-Castel. Of course, Ernie Lozen was supposed to be with us today, but he couldn't make it. But we have his national sales manager, Desieree Schroeder, speaking to the wine. Ernie was the winemaker of the year 2001 from Germany. He was also Decanter's Man of the Year in 2005. He's been the same family estate for 200 years. He took over production in 1988 himself, when he realized, of course, he has, the average age of his vines are 60 years, some of them up to 120 years, very, very steep slate soils. And if you ever visit there, the hospitality at Lozen is unbelievable. Ernie is also a fan of international wines, so he will also oftentimes blind taste you on some of his collection. But I'll let Desiree take over here and taste this beautiful Wehlener Sonnenuhr, one of my favorite wines. Thanks, Desiree.
Hey all together. Thank you for this great introduction, and sorry for me being here. Lucky me to be here. Yeah, Ernie is in Burgundy and he didn't make it. I don't know why, but it was just 10 minutes ago when he called me. Hey, can you please take over this tasting with these guys? And I'm lucky me. A pity I don't have the Wehlener Sonnenuhr Kabinett in my glass, because I'm at home and I don't have this wine cooled down in the cellar. But of course, I know this because it's also one of my favorites. I don't know, but I think, of course, if you live in the Mosel, everybody is, let's say, addicted to Kabinett and also addicted to Wehlener Sonnenuhr, definitely one of our most famous vineyard sites. I think it's also the most famous vineyard site, one of the most famous vineyard sites in the Mosel altogether. It's not only because there's also other very famous producers producing wine in the Wehlener Sonnenuhr, but it's also always the most elegantest and most finest. We always name them ballerina style wines because they could be like divas that are showing up very elegant and very, very fine. The Wehlener Sonnenuhr is, as you can imagine, because Sonnenuhr means sundial, and there is, as you saw on this picture already, there's a sundial in the vineyard. Yeah, thank you for all this, and thank you all, by the way, thank you for this amazing cards you showed us. It's really nice. Yeah, as you can see, there's a sundial in the vineyard, and of course, everybody can imagine this is our estate. It is since 200 years. The building on the left side is the main building that it exists since 200 years, and we build it up a new hospitality part on the right side with the nice vinotheque. So welcome to everybody who wants to come and visit us once. And the Wehlener Sonnenuhr sundial is in the vineyard. There's a lot of vineyards in the Mosel Valley with sundials in there, and of course it's a sign for a very south-facing vineyard. Sundial would not make sense with not a south-facing vineyard, so we have the most sun hours a day in these kind of south-facing vineyards. And in the sundial, it is also most of our oldest wines we have in there. There's special parcels. One of the most famous parcels in the vineyard is the Leichen. It's one of the very oldest parcels in the Wehlener Sonnenuhr, and there the grapes are more than 120 years old because we survived phylloxera. Why did we survive phylloxera? It's quite easy. You can see it on this small picture on the right part, down there on the right part in this picture. We have pure slate. Means if you would do a cut through our vineyards, you would see it's only half meter. Let's say we name it Mutter Erde. Let's say kind of a main part of the soil, and then you have the poor cliff, the poor soil cliffs down there. And this is of course, it was difficult for phylloxera, because of course phylloxera came to the Mosel but couldn't survive. So means we didn't have the problem that our wines were infected, and that's the reason why we still have ungrafted wines. That is very unique, and we are also, it's difficult to talk about, but we are also replanting ungrafted by producing or growing our own grapes, our own wines. And means ungrafted wines also in the Wehlener Sonnenuhr. And this is, of course, very special because for us, it changes a little bit, let's say, the quality of the grapes, because you don't get this big, I don't want to say fat, but this big together grapes, but it is more like we name it Jungferntäubchen. I think in France you name it Mirandage, and in the US I think you name it hen and chicks grapes. They are a little bit smaller. Most of them are not influenced, and they don't stick together, but they are a little bit like more air could go through, and a little bit smaller means the quantity while pressing the grapes is of course a little bit less than lower than with a normal, a younger vineyard. So means we harvest our grapes as late as possible, because we want to have a nice ripeness but no over ripeness. And with these grapes we could really figured out that we could hang them for a little bit longer time without getting too much and too fast botrytis. And this is also one of our most important aspects with Kabinett. Kabinett is definitely one of our most famous qualities in the Mosel. Beside, of course, Spätlese, Auslese, and BA, TBA ice wine, Kabinett is the style that I think we are most famous for, because it is the most drinkable, perhaps enjoyable wines that are sometimes wines for daily drinking, sometimes wine to pair them with perfect food. Everybody in the world most of the people are stunned by the perfect balance between residual sugar and acidity. In the Mosel, with the slate soil types, we get really nice mineralities and really nice acidity that is perfect in balance with a little bit residual sugar. Most of our cabinets, let's say we fermentate them to at the end of an amount of 35 to 40 grams residual sugar, as well this Wehlener Sonnenuhr Kabinett, because we think this is the perfect balance for a Kabinett style wine. And I think this Kabinett is this style of Riesling is definitely a little bit unique in the world. There's really nice also residual sugar wines, Rieslings from all over the world, but of course with us, there's a huge and long history for these wines. And as you can see on this pictures, this is quite nice, because on the first picture on the left side, you can see the old wines. This is how old wines with our Rieslings look like. They don't get this huge, bigger roots, but very old and really powerful roots that could go through these very stony cliff-like soils. On the right side, you can see how we harvest the grapes. As you surely know, botrytis-sized grapes are very important for us, for our, let's name them, noble sweet wines, dessert wines like BA, TBA, and ice wine. No, ice wine not with botrytis, but for the BAs and TBAs. But means we select all the botrytis-sized grapes out. We do the harvest once, so we go through, for example, the Wehlener Sonnenuhr one time through each parcel, and then we do the selection in the vineyard, as you can see with this 3 different buckets. The only healthy grapes go to, for example, if it's a Kabinett quality, it goes through the black bucket, and the botryticized grapes go to the red bucket, or if they are already shriveled, they go to one of these small white buckets that are for BA and TBA. So means in our Kabinett Rieslings, there's only healthy grapes. This is for us very important because we think with the Kabinett style, it has to be very pure, fresh, clean, crisp, and not too much, not too fat, not too bright, not too overripe, but still fresh and cheap. We fermentate all the Kabinetts, and this is different to our dry wines that we fermentate only in oak. We fermentate the Kabinett, most of the Kabinett in standard steel. This is also very important for that we want to produce Kabinett that is crisp and fresh. For Kabinett, for me and for us, the most important thing is that Kabinett is a fresh and crisp, drinky wine that you can enjoy when it's young. And of course, I think most of you, I hope most of you had the chance to drink very old Kabinetts, because with age, this is stunning and amazing. If you didn't try before, please, if there's any chance, try it, because it's amazing. Because the wines with age, after 10, it starts, let's say, after 10, 20, with 30 years, they seem to dry out, because the sugar molecules have the idea to get together, and that means you don't taste the sugar anymore, that means the wines get a little bit dry out a little bit in taste. Yes, and what's with the Wehlener Sonnenuhr, this is typical blue slate. I didn't see the question. There was some question, right? Feel free, please feel free to ask any questions. With the Wehlener Sonnenuhr, the typicity of the Wehlener Sonnenuhr is the blue slate. This is definitely for us a very typical Mosel Riesling and Mosel vineyard, because this blue slate, the main mineral in blue slate is potassium. And with this blue slate, you always get this more, let's say, white, green, yellowish fruit aromas. In the younger and typic years, it's white peach. It could be green apple like Granny Smith. It could also be I don't get the name now. Yeah, most times it's white peach, and with age, they sometimes could get this cassis.
Thank you. One question we had here: Have you seen any climate change impact to your recent vintage?
Yes, of course. There is something changing, or there was a change over the last years. We get more and more ripeness. So it really, if you can imagine, if we started in the 80s or beginning 90s, we started the harvest sometimes in November, and now we have to start harvest in sometimes mid of September. So of course, also with us, climate change changed the way we have to grow our wines, or let's say when we do have to harvest them, because if you want to generate healthy grapes, not too ripe, then you have to do with us the harvest much earlier than it was done in the 80s, 70s, whatever. So means, of course, we get more Öxle, we get higher must rates, and another thing is, of course, with us also we get more botrytis. In the 80s, it was like a party when you got botrytis. And in these days, we have botrytis from the first day on. This picture, that you now see on the right side, this fully botryticized grape. This was in one of the first days of picking. So left hand, the picture of healthy grapes, perfect Kabinett style, and on the right side, next to it, a totally botryticized grape. That is not normal. And now it's getting more and more normal that we get botrytis from the first day on. And also the former higher vineyards that were higher in the mountains, not so close to the Mosel. Of course, they are getting more and more interesting for us as well, because it's more cooler, the climate is more cooler, and that means perhaps sometimes more longer hanging time.
Well, excellent. This is a delicious wine. I love the racy acidity, you know, the clean apricot. There's green apple here. It's super complex. The lower alcohol makes it easy to drink for first courses. Of course, I'm a big fan of Riesling with Thai food. I was just in Vegas this weekend and had 4 bottles of Riesling with my dinner. So this is a really, really great way to start here. We're going to roll forward a little bit. We're kind of getting behind schedule a little bit, but this is a super delicious wine. And so thank you, Desieree, for coming on and sharing this delicious Riesling wine with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And Greg, we're going to move to the Pfalz now and go down south. Can you give a little overview of that, sir?
Absolutely. So I actually, when I was in Germany in 2019, I did this exact drive. So we are going to head from the Mosel, just right there, and you'll head across the Hunsrück forest. Really beautiful area of Germany. If you have the chance to do so, it's densely wooded. The roads are twisty. It's definitely a really incredible area. You'll drive past the Nahe, and we'll head down to the Pfalz. So the Pfalz, I think, you know, one of the very first things you talk about, and you almost always have to talk about, is that, you know, it borders and abuts Alsace. And so if you look, you have the Vosges Mountains right here, and just as you get across the border, you have the Hart Hills. So this more or less does a very, very similar thing. It keeps the area in a rain shadow. It helps to prevent weather from coming in. It helps to protect the vineyards and protect it from those kind of more harsh westerly weathers. And so the areas itself, these are the classics. You know, it's split into 2 areas, the Südlich Weinstrasse and the Mittelhart Deutsche Weinstrasse. This was the first, and actually it still is today, the largest wine route in all of Germany. But when you're looking at the Pfalz, most of the best vineyards are in the Mittelhart as a classic. But there's a wide variety of soils, and you know, the Pfalz, whereas the Mosel really focuses on Riesling, the Pfalz really has a little bit more variety. They do amazing Pinot Noir. They do a lot of the Burgunder varieties, as well as doing Riesling exceptionally well. It's the second largest wine growing region of Germany. But really we want to focus in on these top vineyard sites. Oh yeah, this is the great Madonna statue in the Forster Ungehauer vineyard. Definitely a classic site to see if you go to the area. But there's 2 towns that really are, you know, kind of the center section of the Pfalz, and where so many amazing vineyards are. That's Deidesheim and Forst. So Deidesheim just right there. Forst is just north of it, where we have Ungehauer and the Kirchenstück vineyard. Deidesheim or Langenmorgen. We also have Hohenmorgen. A lot of really top sites sit on this hillside. That's basically contiguous between Forst and Deidesheim. If you ever have a chance to go to Von Winning, I highly recommend it. They have an incredible restaurant there. It's one of the best tours that I've taken, and you really get to dial in through different stages, through stainless steel examples, through oak aged examples, dry. They do amazing Sauvignon Blanc, which I'm actually really excited that that's the wine that we're tasting today because I'm a huge fan of it. And it's definitely an exciting winery, an exciting place to be. So with that, we'll head right into it.
Well, thank you, Greg. SommFoundation has been there for a long time, been there since the 1800s. I was one of the founding members of the VDP, and they grow so many different grapes, Pinot Noir, Lemberger, Cabernet, Merlot, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc, Schroeder. Pretty cool what they do there. We're lucky today to have Andreas Hütwohl with us today. Andreas was an apprentice winemaker, 15, 20 years ago. He studied enology at the great Giesenheim University in Germany and then University of Udine in Italy. He's had stages in Italy and Australia as well. He's now the Deputy General Manager and Export Manager of Von Vinning. And Andreas, we're really looking forward to taste this wine with you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for this excellent introduction. Usually I would start talking about the region Pfalz. I don't have to do that because very well done, Greg. Maybe two more words to it. So it is absolutely the second largest wine area in Germany, but it's also the world's largest Riesling area. So, I mean, the Pfalz is quite big and we have many different varieties, that's true. But still, there is a lot of Riesling here. And as the Pfalz is quite large, the highest amount of Riesling vines in one specific area is here in the Pfalz. So you could say that the Pfalz is pretty much the Texas of Germany when it comes to the wine areas, because everything is a little bit bigger here. We have sandstone-based soils. Right behind me is a sandstone wall. 250 million year old sandstone makes up the base of all of the vineyard sites. In addition, there is limestone. There was an ocean in the area between 50 and 35 million years ago, subtropical climates and corals, today's limestone. And in Forst, you saw it on the map earlier, one village north of here. In addition to sandstone and a lot of limestone, you also have volcanic basalt. So a huge and fantastic combination of soils. And this really makes up the great terroir differences that we have. For us, we are a winery, Jay said it, since 1849 with a history that goes even back to 1718. And we are situated on the Weinstraße, the German wine route number 10 in Deidesheim. You see the building, you see little stairs in front of the entrance. There is a tiny window. This is the window right here. I'm right there on the corner of the building on the bottom. Very, very worth a visit, I would say. I would be happy to have you here. Don't hesitate to reach out and come by. We have a nice restaurant in the winery where we do not only have our wines, but international ones, of course, from national colleagues. And I would be happy to take you through the cellar and maybe the vineyards if there's time. Happy to do that. It says it right there. We're making dry, salty, complex terroir wines. And for us, Riesling is variety number 1. We have 7 different Premier Crus, 8 different Grand Crus of Riesling in the villages Deidesheim and Forst to the north, Ruppertsberg and Neustadt to the south. Combination of either sandstone or sandstone and limestone, limestone, volcanic basalt in the soil, big differences. And in order to bring the potential of those vineyards to the glass and to the bottle, we obviously work close to nature in the vineyard sites. I think this is what all of us 6 winemakers tonight have in common. And then controlled idleness, hands-off approach in the cellar, where we work in a very traditional manner, fermenting most of our wines in oak barrels of various sizes, from 500 liter French oak barrels up to 2,400 liter oak barrels, in which the wines ferment naturally with indigenous yeast, always aiming for depth and complexity of aroma, really good structure, but always balanced by a fantastic backbone of acidity, freshness, tension, because obviously, I mean, we're in Germany, we're on the northern border of the classic European wine regions. And even though it is getting warmer for sure, we're still very, very much cool climates, and make rather fine and elegant wines, even though when you compare them to the wines of the Mosel, there's probably a bit more flesh to it, a bit more power, a bit more body. Always ripe, mature aromas, but at a point where you have great backbone of acidity and fine, elegant aromas. Because you saw it on the picture, on the map that Greg showed, the sun is setting behind those hard mountains, and we have nice and warm days, but we have shadow on the slopes in the afternoon, and we have cool afternoons and cool nights. So there's often a difference between 10 up to 15 degrees Celsius between day and afternoon and night, which is perfect to keep this great backbone of acidity. Riesling is the main variety. We do have, for us, it's pretty much 70% of the vineyard area which is covered with Riesling, but great conditions for other varieties like Sauvignon Blanc, which you have in your glasses now. I have it too. The Sauvignon Blanc Roman numeral 2, which is a little bit like in school in Germany. Our 2 is your B, our 1 is your A. So 2 or B is good, but 1 is a step up. So this is entry level on the top level. This is a wine which is stainless steel fermented, making it clear, crisp, fresh, and fruit driven. And like Riesling, on the slopes, the grapes get aromatically ripe. So this is not green and grassy. This is rather exotic. You don't find as much green peppers here. It's rather passion fruit. There is yellow gooseberry, but still there is great acidity. There is moderate alcohol, and there's its overall freshness and elegance. And for me, this is one of the great easy drinking wines on a top level, which is not simple at all, which is the kind of wine that you take to the water, which you take to the beach. If you like oysters, this is fantastic with it, but also just by itself or with seafood, shellfish in any way. You see it, it's stainless steel fermented. This is Kurt Rathgeber, the head winemaker, getting a sample of probably exactly this wine. So the ones that ferment in barrels are rather complex, salty, well-structured, yet fine and elegant. This is brilliant and fruit-focused, coming from different vineyard sites, and really focusing on this exoticness, freshness, and fruits. I really hope you enjoy this wine. I really hope you have the chance to taste more of our wines. There's a quite good selection of them, also of the single vineyard Rieslings in the United States. You can also find Pinot Noir. So there's a good selection there. But of course, the best thing is to come over and visit me. I would be very happy to have you over. And I see there is something popping up in the question and answer section. Well, it's just a compliment. Thank you. Thank you for making it. Happy that you like it. And my last name is pronounced Hütwohl, but Jay said it perfectly well.
Andreas, this is a really, really cool wine. I taste wines blind all the time, and I've tasted a lot of Sauvignon Blanc from all over the world. And this wine has such a beautiful aromatics. Like you said, this isn't green bell pepper. This is, there's a slight herbal note, and I would say maybe fresh cilantro, and maybe a little bit of fresh basil here, but the beautiful fruit on this, and as you mentioned to me earlier, there's just a few grams of residual sugar on here, which really perks this wine up with the acidity. It's so delicious, so easy to drink. 12% alcohol. I love it. These are the kind of wines that I want to drink with my first course. These are the kind of wines that I want to just sit in the afternoon sun and drink. Again, with the fresh acidity and just a titch of RS on here, it's going to go great with exotic foods that, again, Thai foods or Mexican foods, but seafood, shellfish, fresh sea bass. This is a cool wine. I love your labels. These modern labels, they're modern and old at the same time, but I think they really show well and especially for either they pop off the shelf or off of a wine rack. I think just all in all, fantastic. Thank you. Greg, you got any comments on the wine, sir?
You're muted, man. Greg, you're on mute.
But yeah, just a huge fan of these wines. Andreas, I had a bottle of your Riesling on Saturday night, if that says anything. And it was delicious. It was with my meal at the end of the night at Jimmy's, and I said, all right, well, what do I want to crack? And I said, all right, well, let's have some of this. But it was great, and I love this Sauvignon Blanc. To me, this wine has just such expressive character. And, you know, in a lot of Sauvignon Blanc nowadays, I feel like that's missing, particularly as, you know, crop levels go up in Sancerre, and they're trying to keep it at the same price. This is Sauvignon Blanc that keeps that really beautiful character, keeps the amazing aromatics and food friendliness. And yeah, as I mentioned, a huge fan.
You know, this is a wine that's different. If you have a Sauvignon Blanc list, this needs to be put in there because this isn't just an also-ran. It's a total different style here, and it's really, really good. Andreas, I have a question here. What was the inspiration for the labels?
Well, this you see this W right behind me. The W with the ornaments on the label is actually an old artwork which was taken out of an alphabet that was written around 1900 by an art professor in Germany. And I think it's as you said, Jay, it's a perfect combination of modern but also traditional aspects. In the end, it's an artwork which makes it timeless in a way. And because sometimes German words and German vineyard names are hard to pronounce, we have started using different colors on all the different bottlings and crus. So even though it's hard to say Kirchenstück or Rupertsberger Reiterpfad or stuff like that, you will always recognize it by the colors. I think also that adds up a little bit to it. And yeah, well, the inspiration is tradition and art, but also modern aspects. I think that's what is spicing things up.
Great. And Andreas has to leave early, ladies and gentlemen. So if you do have any additional questions for him, fire at him now because he has a different appointment that he has to attend to. So again, thank you for this delicious and beautiful wine. Anyone else have a...
We had
Go ahead.
We had one about the, can you touch on some unusual wine pairings you think would work with this? One thing I would just throw out there, and I'd also say the same for the Lozen Riesling, is to me, these wines, both of these first two wines are such incredible pairings with barbecue as well. You know, so often you think barbecue wines and people bring up Zinfandel or these other, you know, big hearty reds. And to me, I think, all right, well, if I'm going to a barbecue, it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 35-ish centigrade. It's hot, it's daytime, and you want something with a little bit of sugar and acidity because it pairs beautifully with it. And let's be serious, it's 1 in the afternoon if you're going to a barbecue. And so these first two wines, I think are, you know, really, really knock it out of the park for that.
There's another question about the 2 on the label. I know you make a Sauvignon Blanc 500, which is your #1 Sauvignon Blanc. Then you make a Sauvignon Blanc 1 from the very select sites. So the 2, it's just basically an order, correct? I mean, the question was, what about the 2? I guess that's what they're asking.
Yeah, 2, like in school. For us, 2 is your B, 1 is your A, and 2 is good, but 1 is better. This is stainless steel. This is a fun wine. Like I said, oysters, and Greg said it's barbecue. Take the Sauvignon 1, which is barrel fermented, which brings in more depth, more density, brings in roasted and smoky kind of aromas from partly new barrels. And there you have a wine, a Sauvignon Blanc, which from density and complexity goes very well with a great piece of meat, with a great steak at your barbecue. Works perfectly. This year more, this is perfect with oysters, hands down.
Well, excellent. All right, that is 2 really great wines in a row. Let's move on to, we'll go down south. We'll go down to Baden. Greg, can you give us a little overview of Baden, please? And thank you, Andreas.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, we are headed down from the Pfalz and headed down to Baden, and I've done this route. It's really interesting. You're on the river and you go right. You kind of go right along the Rhine River, which is this river right here that forms the border of France and Germany. And really, you're looking at the street signs, and every other one is in French and every other one is in German, depending on whether the exit goes towards the east or whether it goes towards the west. But yeah, Baden borders Alsace on the other side of the French border. This is an interesting area where, you know, towards the north, you have a significant amount of Riesling planted. But as you go down, you get different pockets. There's some vineyards that are close, more so in about this area, in this Kaiserstuhl area, that are some of the warmest vineyards in all of Germany. Spätburgunder is the most planted grape, Müller-Thurgau as well. So it's not, it's actually a lot of other grapes besides Riesling. But when you get down south in this Markgrafenland area, Chasselas is definitely a specialty to the area. And this makes sense given that you're kind of on the border here of Switzerland, France, and Germany. But Chasselas is well known here as well as their Pinot Noir. And we head down to Ziereisen. I've never had these wines before, and I'm incredibly excited. You know, they're not wines that I get the opportunity to taste very often. So anytime that I do, it's always really exciting, and I'm kind of nosing this, and I'm already excited to get into it.
Well, great. This is a really cool winery. Hans-Peter Ziereisen founded the winery in 1991. He was working as a carpenter, woodworker, and he didn't study wine. He just learned by doing and drinking from all over the world. But the house that they lived there was built in 1734 and always belonged to the family. And before they got into winemaking, it was a farm, and they made their living from selling cattle, meat, fruit, cheeses, apples, grapes, vegetables, asparagus, potatoes, and still do. They have 20 hectares down there. They grow all sorts of different grapes, Chasselas, Pinot Noir, Syrah, Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris. Of course, like you said, it's right down in the corner. Basel is only 15 kilometers away. And they do everything by hand. It's, you know, handcrafted to them is not exceptional. It's standard. So we're really looking forward to speaking with the Ziereisen family and talking about this beautiful Pinot Noir. And I'm not sure, I think Hans-Peter might not be there, but I think, who do we have here today?
Hi. So it's me, Edel. I'm the wife of Hans-Peter and our son, John. Actually, I'm really sorry, but we mixed up the time. We didn't realize that in America, different time. So we in the evening. So we have actually a wine and dine in the neighborhood. So I just swapped in now to say hello to you guys. And Hans-Peter is still there talking in slang German, not in English. But welcome to our winery. So we're happy that we are allowed to join you. We have 50% Pinot Noir. So the heart of Hans-Peter actually knocks for the Pinot Noir. He only wanted to do Pinot Noir, not white wines, because he loves the French style with everything. And he was fallen with the red wine, so that's what also make us actually a little bit more famous with the red. But with the white wine, we also know, you see here, Gut Edel, so Chasselas, if you see somewhere Gut Edel, we're really proud of our Gut Edel, also a specialty from our area down here. So what is important about our area, maybe I tell you that first. Important in our area is this Rhine Valley. The Rhine Valley didn't went normal like water is flowing and then it goes a big river. No, actually the Rhine started to break. So it breaks apart and the Rhine, wie sagt man, ist dann gekommen, also ist dann entstanden. So then the wine was there. And actually the important thing is when it broke apart, it moved the soil from down up to the top. And this is the important thing. We have a lot of
Limestone.
Yeah, geologue. A lot of people who come in just to look at these stones, because normally they are thousands of meters down, not on the top. So our hill is really special, and the soil is pure limestone. And this is especially for the Pinot Noir really interesting, because you have always this freshness, this lightness. Depends on the vintage, of course. Now we have 13%, sometimes we only have 12. Always depends on the year. But this is maybe for me one of the most reasons why we have Pinot Noirs like that. And the second reason is that we have the same wind like Burgundy. So we in this Burgundy stream. And what is interesting here, I always say we have a little thing, maybe better, I don't know, but what we're really proud of, we have the Black Forest in the back. And the Black Forest cools the night. So we have cool nights and we have warm days. We totally south face, so the whole day sun, but during the night the wind comes, especially in the steep vineyard, it cools down. So you always have something cool aromatic in our wines. This one, the Tschuppen, is our basic. It starts with Tschuppen. This one is about 360 above sea level. So actually also we quite high. So yeah, that's most for the most thing for the wines. We think it's one of the really good reasons. The second reason what we have wines like that is Hans-Peter. Hans-Peter hates working in the cellar. We have, you see on the picture, we built a new cellar. It was always a dream of him to have a natural climate cellar down in the ground, because we keep the wines 2 years on the yeast. So you can imagine 20 hectares, also white, we keep 2 years. So you can imagine 2 vintages. In the cellar, you need a lot of wooden barrels. We do all in wooden barrels, no stainless steel, only wood, because of Hans-Peter Carpenter. Of course, was always for him sure we're using wood. No discussion about stainless steel. And then we need the space. Jetzt haben wir den Faden verloren, was habe ich wieder sagen? Yeah. So we always have 2 vintage in the cellar, and this is here you have 17 in the glass. So also this one was 2 years in the cellar on the yeast, and then we fill it without filtration. So no filtration in between. The first time we did that was 99. We bottled without filtration in 99, and a lot of people came back with the bottle and said something is wrong with your wine because it's too much cloudy inside. That's why we're written now on the label unfiltered. But of course we had to learn about that as well, because there you have to watch the moon. It depends on the moon when the yeast is more down or more up. So you always have, I'm sorry, I never remember when is what. I think the moon is down, it has to go, Hans-Peter would know. Yeah, then you take the wines away from the barrels and it's more clear on top and it's not mixed up. And Hans-Peter actually, that's what I wanted to tell you, hates cellar work. So he is all the time outside. He makes the wine in the vineyard, and he never been in the cellar. Actually, that's why it started our wines in this philosophy, because we didn't taste the whole time. So when we, let's say, vintage, now this year, what is it, 21, we harvest in October. So maybe we taste the first time next year in June. So we leave the wines on his own. So in the cellar, we fill up, but also not strictly anymore like we did in the past. So that always depends. like we said, we do all hand harvest. And you can see on the picture there, we also, when we end stem the grape, then we check the berries, if there is something wrong with it, especially actually if there is a green spot. But nowadays we don't have green berries anymore because the weather is really always good. And we have a special machine where we, with air pressure, we blow. When the flowering is finished, we blew with air pressure into the bunch, and then you blew away the dirt, what is inside from the flowering, and you put away single berries. So you have more sun around each berry. So that's also why we have so dark Pinot Noir. This is because they're having sun all around the berry, and we don't have so we have really perfect berries. So no
healthy berries.
No botrytis or something we don't have. No. Also during harvest, this is great because air goes in and it's perfect. It's really good. Yeah. And then we're using for those wines, especially for the red wines, we're using oak. Small barrels, 20 barrique, yeah, 225 liters, and we're using only German oak. We have a really good barrel maker from Germany. It's close to Würzburg. This is Franken. He makes with German wood from the Spessart. He makes our barrels because we found out that our wines really suit with those oak because the oak is not so strong. Also with the toasting, we can discuss with him and say more or less. We have really less toasting. So if we use new oak, really less toasting, but the Tschuppen always old barrels. There also can be a French old barrel when you get it from Knipser or from Huber, so you have maybe the French oak, but if you have a new oak, it's always from Germany. And then we make after harvest, so we don't end stem all. So with this wine, it's about 10% whole bunches. So we use since a few years, we do again with whole bunches. We started actually, John was born 21 and he was 21, 2001. And those, so he has a lot of wines for him actually, red wines, because those we started the first time with whole bunches, but we did it totally wrong. We made, we end stamped the berries, the wines, the grapes, we end stamped it, and then we put the stems again into it, and then we made like up and down and up and down and up and down. So you can imagine green tannins, horrible for drinking. We stopped it actually. So John has a whole cellar of Pinot Noir because we stopped selling because it was so green. We have to taste again. On his birthday, actually, we taste this year in May. It was okay, but you can drink it, but still you can feel, of course, the tannins. So we have to learn that you shouldn't do that. That's the case when you don't study something, you're learning by doing, you make mistakes. So then we learned actually from trainees that you have to do it another way. So first it started with the vineyard. When you harvest, you have to decide, do you take those bunches for whole bunch or do you end stem it? If it's too much green on it, you can't use it for whole bunches. It has to be ripe. So the steel, I don't know how you call it, it has to be brown, not green. So you really have to be ripe. Also the bunches, I don't know in English, the steel, I don't know. And then you cut them, and then you have to really use your feet to make it carefully that you don't damage the. Nein, guck mal, der Stiel, das heißt. Der Stiel. Du hast doch ein Handy.
It's the stems, Edeltraud.
The
This is
stems.
Andreas.
Thank you. Yes, the stems. Yeah, that you don't damage the stems. Thank you very much. And this is important for that. And the fermentation, it's the only thing with the white wine we're using stainless steel. We have a big tank, and there we put in the grapes, and then it goes slowly up and down. Not so much we used in the past, but it's closed. We started since 2 years already with open fermentation again, like we did in the past. So it's always funny, you try again, because it's totally different. When you're using open fermentation and in the steel together, it's great.
We have a question here. One of the people, the picture of the rock on the slide, you said there was chalk in the vineyard, but you said it looks like flint. Is that what kind of a rock is that in your picture?
Yes, this is jaspis. We call our top line, we call jaspis. Jaspis is a stone, the hardest stone after diamonds. And those they picked in our vineyard during stone times. They used it for knives, and it's really hard. It's limestone, old limestone. And you have jaspis, yes. You have different colors. In our hill, it was always the gray stone. In other areas, there could be red or green. All over the world, you have jaspis. This is limestone. Yeah.
Excellent. And then people want to know where they can get those cool shirts. Those are those available? Etc. Some people were asking about that.
Yes, they can send us an email. Yes, of course.
All
yeah,
right.
we can organize that. Yeah.
Send them an email. Now, this is fantastic Pinot Noir. I'm really happy to be able to drink such a beautiful and ripe, but at the same time not overripe. I mean, the alcohol on the bottle says only 12%. You know, it's probably a little hotter than that, but not much. But really, really pretty red fruit. The cola nut on this wine, and excellent. And this is your entry level. I'd really like to taste your better ones too, because this is fantastic. What a great treat to taste this wine today.
Yeah, it's really interesting because for us it was always we always said we want that the people taste where it comes from. So you have to taste a little bit the minerality, the stone. And then we have our hill. It's like in the middle of nowhere is this hill. Yeah, I mean, this picture is not the best, but you have behind here, you have Basel, and on the right hand, you have French. And in the middle is the River Rhine. And actually, the wines, it's you have different spots. Only 100 meters next to it tastes totally different. Each wine tastes different, like with the Riesling as well. Each Lage tastes different, but we are not Qualitätswein, we Landwein, so we're not allowed to write down where it comes from, but each part is totally different, and this makes it so interesting. So if you have the chance to get some other Pinot, you can put it next to each other. It's only one hill, but totally different. So it's really great. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Adele. That was really a great presentation. We're excited to. Greg, you got any comments here before we move to Bordeaux?
Yeah, I just think it's great Pinot. I love how it has this really beautiful, like brambly spice component. I love how it has a little bit of that color, but none of it's coming from big amounts of ripeness. You know, it keeps a lot of poise to it, and super well-made wine, and yeah, pretty stoked about it.
Excellent. Well, that was our little trip to Germany. Now, thanks so much from the German producers. That was excellent. We will now fly over the Alps to Bordeaux.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we are headed over to Bordeaux. So as a reminder, we started off here in the Mosel, headed down through the Pfalz, down through Baden, and I was tempted to actually have the European borders in this, but I thought it would actually be interesting to see it without, just to show you really how contiguous the wine regions are. So here we have Switzerland. This is the Vaud and the Valais. There you have Lake Geneva. We head through over the Jura, past Burgundy. There you have the Côte d'Or, and all of the great vineyards that line that. But we are headed up and towards the west side of France. We are headed to the classic region of Bordeaux, where so many exciting things are going on. Again, you know, as you get out of southwest France, you have the two classic rivers, the Gironde and the Dordogne River, which combine to form the Gironde estuary. You have the left bank just to, as you can see on the left, drained by the Dutch. You have the right bank over here, then Graves and Pessac-Lignon, Sauternes, and we're going to Entre-deux-Mers first. This is a really exciting region because they do incredibly with Cabernet, specialists with Merlot, do absolutely incredible white wines, which Entre-deux-Mers itself is actually an appellation specifically for the white wines of the area. And it's definitely an exciting area where you can find some amazing discoveries and really kind of get out from just the classified growths. We're going to Château Briot, as you can see, also Haut-Rian. We're gonna head there next, but you have a couple classic wine regions in this area, Cadillac, Lapierre, but we're right across the river from Sauternes and Barsac, two of the great sweet wine regions. And as you kind of discover in here, a lot of interesting things going on. We have a really beautifully manicured estate here at Château Briot, the bottle over on the left. And I love this site because you can see the vineyard building from the top, but it's really about getting down into the vineyards, where you can also see that in the background, and really incredible spot. And I think an area that's potentially off of many people's radar when they only have a couple days to visit Bordeaux, but I know I definitely need to take a visit, and excited to fairly soon.
Well, excellent. We're going to be talking about this wine, Château Briot. It's owned by the Ducourt family, who own over 480 hectares in Bordeaux, with 14 different chateaux in 6 different appellations. So they actually, you know, make a lot of different wines and manage a lot of different wines. We have Jonathan Ducourt with us today, who's part of the 6th generation Ducourt family. He is an expert in vineyard management and winemaking sales. He's spent time in the Napa Valley, Tuscany, and New Zealand. There's currently 2 different generations of Ducourts working together. Jonathan is sales and marketing director, and the rest of some other family members. So Jonathan, we're excited to talk about this beautiful wine from Château Briot.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be in the panel and to have the chance to introduce Bordeaux for tonight, and especially our lovely region of Entre-deux-Mers. So as you say, we are here in the middle, in the heart of Bordeaux. Entre-deux-Mers is probably the lesser known region of Bordeaux, but it's actually the place where we produce most of the wines that you can drink from Bordeaux. It's about 50% of all Bordeaux production come from Entre-deux-Mers. Entre-deux-Mers is basically between the two main rivers we have in Bordeaux. We have the Garonne on the south, that on the other side we have the left bank, and on the north of Entre-deux-Mers we have the Dordogne River, and on the other side you are on the right bank. Entre-deux-Mers actually means between 2 rivers in French. So it's an easy way to remember. And we are basically in a very big plateau. Some places with quite high altitude, and some other quite steep hillside going down to the river. Many different kind of soil in Entre-deux-Mers. We made a study recently, and we find about 60 different soil profile. You can find it Entre-deux-Mers, so you have a very big diversity, and you can find all the different style of wines. You have white, you have rosé, you have red, you have dry, sweet, a bit of everything we grow here. The region was very famous for whites at the beginning, but over the last 50 years, people tend to plant more reds. So now most of the people are growing mostly reds. At our family, we've been keeping quite a big percentage of whites. We actually produce about 35% of white wine in our winery, 10% of rosé, and the rest of red. As you mentioned, so we don't only produce Bordeaux, we also have estate on the right bank. We also have an estate on the left bank. So we produce many different styles of Bordeaux. Tonight, we're going to be tasting our Château Briot, which is a very good example of the style of wine we produce here in Entre-deux-Mers. Actually, we are in my house, so we live just next door to the vines in the middle of the countryside. And Château Briot is just 10 kilometers from here. It's quite a big estate. We produce about 20,000 cases of Briot Red, and we also produce about 10,000 cases of Briot White. It's a wine that grow on clay limestone soil, so it has good freshness, good fresh fruit. We won't taste the white tonight, but the white is 100% Sauvignon Blanc. It's quite crisp, with a nice fruit and nice maturity. The red you have in the glass is the blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, a bit more Cabernet than Merlot. It's a 2018 vintage, so it's quite a ripe year in Bordeaux. So you're gonna smell the red fruit, quite very fruity. Not a big wine. We do aging in stainless steel, a little bit in barrel, so we keep the fruit forward. We like to keep the freshness. We have a little bit of tannin, but not too heavy, not too oaky. Really, I would say easy, not easy to drink, but enjoyable, fresh, fruity, good for aperitif, good for small bites. Even a piece of meat, and you can also have it with fish. It works as well because it's not a big wine, but it's very fruity, very intense, and the mouth is the same. It's quite soft. It's not your typical of big Bordeaux, but it should be of good value producer. And yeah, I think good introduction to Bordeaux.
You know, we had a question here. This wine is drinking so beautifully at this age. do you think that you decant this wine, and what do you think the aging window of this wine is?
So for Château Briot Red, we usually say to drink within the first 15 years. For us, the best drinking window will be between, let's say, 5 and 10. But we don't really need to decant this kind of wine. It's fruit forward. It has the nice fresh fruit you can enjoy young, and then it will develop a little bit because there is a little bit of aging in barrel as well. So it will soften up. It will get more earthy, a bit more like maybe the Bordeaux people have in mind. A bit more earthy. It will come to that in maybe 2, 3, 5 years. Yeah, that's 5 to 10. That will be my best drinking window.
You know, this is a really great wine and a great value. You know, these 18s too were, 18s were pretty ripe and, powerful. But this wine has nice elegance. The tannin is there, but integrated. And, at the price of $14.50 retail, to me, this is, this is what's so great about Bordeaux. And, people don't realize how many great values there are for this wine, because from what you can get from, California and this price point, it's not even close to the same wine or the same history. And I think, these are the perfect wines to pour by the glass because they fit into that, easy drinking. They still have power, but they're not, too powerful, so you can easily drink multiple glasses, and that's what we want with wines by the glass. Greg, you got any comments on the wine? You're muted.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting to think about because for example, I'm in my 30s, and a lot of sommeliers nowadays, kind of ebb and flow from Bordeaux, but it is really one of the great classic wine regions of the world, and I feel like a lot of sommeliers also don't taste a lot of these wines that often and don't realize that there's such value here. And if you look solely at the classified groats, it is generally wines that you hope somebody else is paying for and that you have to lay down forever. But really, I think it's just getting experience with these wines that help you realize just what's going on in the region nowadays.
As you know, I'm a big advocate of Bordeaux. I buy Bordeaux for the company here. I promote Bordeaux pretty much on a regular basis. And I'm always amazed at, at the value and quality of the wines coming from the region in general. I'm a fan of the white wines, the rosés, the sweet wines. And so this is a great example of what we can get from Entrée de Mer. Also, you guys note the crocodile on all the Ducourt bottles. They have a little crocodile on them. So, Jonathan, you want to talk about the crocodile a little bit on all your wines?
Yeah, we can. So it's a funny story, actually. So I didn't mention, you did. So I'm part of the 6th generation. So the family business started to make wine in 1858. But we were farming the land before in Entrée-de-Mer. We've been in the region for almost 400 years. And the business was kind of farming different fruits, raising cows. And my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they really started to focus in wine business. And when my grandfather took over with his wife, the family business, they started with 10 hectares. So a very small winery in Entrée-de-Mer. But it was in the late 50s, and my grandfather was really an entrepreneur and really active, and he kind of started buying chateaus from the neighbors and vineyards from the neighbors, and quickly grow the family winery to what we have today. And so one day in the 70s, a neighbor my grandfather just bought the vineyard from, planted a sign in the vineyard to make a joke, and there was a crocodile design saying, Ducourt is eating all the small neighbors. And so it was a joke from his neighbor. And at the time they were repainting the winery, and so my uncle play with this idea and just put 2 crocodiles and a D in the middle on the tank. And then we had a customer coming, and he was looking to do a new label. And he saw the tank and he said, okay, you take this design and you put it on the label, and that will make a good design. And so we started to put these 2 crocodiles on one label, and then we use it on another one, and little by little it became kind of our family emblem, and the reminder of where we come from and our entrepreneurial spirit to continue in this region of Entre-deux-Mers. So you can look at every bottle of Ducourt. You have the little 2 crocodile, and you can easily find us all around the world.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. That was amazing. Excellent wine, and look forward to tasting some of your other wines from the family.
Thank you.
We're going to move over to Château Haut-Rian now, which is close, and Greg's going to take us there.
Absolutely. So we're going to make a quick stop, see the Sauve Meilleur Abbey. So this was definitely one of the historical sites when you're in the region that you definitely have to check out, and always love to actually see a little bit about the history and not just visit vineyards all day. And pretty special area. So as mentioned, we are in Entre-deux-Mers, but very close to the town of Cadillac, as well as the appellation for those wines. Just across the river of the Garonne, this is Sauternes, this is Barsac, and we're headed down to Haut-Rian. One interesting thing that I would be very interested to check out and really hear more about, because I'm not familiar with all of these different vineyard sites, but we have a number of different vineyard sites marked out here. And I know that there's quite a bit of selection between them, and differences in really small areas that we use to make really special wine. And I'll be interested to hear a little bit more about each of the vineyard sites, because I think that's really special to be picking out particular areas and really diving into them. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jay.
Well, thank you. So we're lucky today to have Pauline Lapierre Dietrich, who is the COO of Château Haut-Rian. Her parents, Michael and Isabel, started the winery. Their parents were also winemakers. So Pauline grew up in the winery. She studied, she went away from home at 17 to study finance in Paris, but then got into enology and spent 2 years in Montpellier. In 2017, she came back to work with the family and to learn about the winemaking business. So she has this expertise. Of course, they have plots in 5 different villages. They only use estate fruit. They're sustainable, bee-friendly. They have 11 hectares of pure organic vineyards. And she's going to talk about this beautiful Bordeaux Blanc that we're going to taste today. Hello, Pauline.
Hello. Thanks for this nice introduction. So yes, I'm Pauline. So actually, Jonathan is one of my neighbor. Let's say he's 10 to 15 minutes drive from me. So we are based in Rions along the Garonne River. And at some point I have a presentation which should show up. Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot, Philippe, I guess. So Château Haut-Rian is the name of the estate. Briefly, I wanted to introduce you my story. So actually it's a vineyard, it's an estate which was founded 30 years ago, so not so long ago. My father comes from Alsace, the house on the left-hand side. My mom comes from Champagne, from Verzy, on the Montagne de Reims. Both from wine growers family. They spent 6 years working mostly on Semillon in Australia, in the Clare Valley, and they settled 30 years ago in an area called Coulouse. So it's a small video where you can see the view. I don't know if Ophélie you hear me, but if you can play the video, it's great. Otherwise, it's okay. So no, it's okay. It's a PDF, so it's my fault. Sorry. So the result of Alsace plus Champagne plus Clare Valley is Rions near Bordeaux. What is so special in our area, as Jonathan said just before, it's the diversity and the quality of the terroirs. It's mostly family-owned estates, craft artisan wines at fair prices. So the wines, if we can go to the next slide. Just wanted to say, if we want to focus a bit on terroirs, we don't speak much about terroirs in Bordeaux. It's changing right now. Unions and the Bordeaux Wine Council are investing in like really knowing more precisely the terroir. I think what you have to know about Château Haut-Rian, about us, is that as my parents settled only 30 years ago, they bought plots step by step, year after year. So we have plots in 5 different villages, and each village has really its own specificity. We grow mostly white grapes and especially Sauvignon Blanc on silty clay, on cooler soils. In terms of bud burst, between Rions on the left-hand side and Soulignac on the right-hand side, 2 small villages, 15 minutes drive by car, you have 10 days of difference at bud burst. So very different climate, local climates, and very different soils. As in Soulignac, it's mostly silty clay, whereas where we are based in Rions, where the cellar is, it's mostly calcareous soil on unconsolidated limestone with beautiful hills facing the Garonne River, south-southeast exposure. So we have both soils, climate and nice exposure, and of course grape varieties, so Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Old Semillon, because our region used to produce a lot of sweet wines. And on the top of each hill, you have these small rocks that we call gravels, grave in Bordeaux, and where we can grow easily Cabernet Sauvignon that's ripe, which is quite important. So I'm not going to bother you long on terroir and climates, but just to say that it's kind of diverse, and with this diversity, so the wine we are tasting tonight is this one, Château Haut-Rian 2020, clear bottle, screw cap for the US market. It would be another bottle for the French market. It's a blend of 60% Semillon and 40% Sauvignon Blanc. I'm personally a big fan of Semillon. We have old Semillon planted before the 60s, so before clonal selection. And I think terroirs, of course, and climates are very important, but blending in Bordeaux especially is very important. So this 60% Semillon, 40% Sauvignon Blanc. The nose, we can maybe, yeah, go for the, so the, first the vintage, 2020, incredibly hot, dry. We started the harvest 26th of August, which was the earliest in 30 years. It was a vintage with kind of low acidities, ripe grapes. And what's in your glass? So the noise for me is dominated with Sauvignon Blanc, with citrus notes. And then the mouth. So as Jonathan said as well before about Château Briot for the white, we have a kind of freshness. It's zippy in a way. And this is really kind of Sauvignon driven with these citrus aromas. But at the same time, this base of 60% Semillon gives a middle, like fulfills the middle palate, and the middle palate is really full and rich, and at the end it lasts quite longer. It's quite mouth-watering, and so this is it. Haut-Rian, Bordeaux Blanc 2020. And the last question you asked were about the link between my wine and my terroir. So you can, if we can go to the last slide. Thank you very much, Ophélie. So the question was, how does this wine reflect your terroir? I would say that to me, I hope you find the same, but to me, there is a kind of balance in this wine. And this is really by playing with the balance between the terroirs, because it's mostly Semillon, as I said, on calcareous sunny hills, which can be a bit heavy at some point, but the 40% of Sauvignon Blanc on cooler, deeper, silty soils brings the freshness and the acidity that need to be here. And all together, so I come back to this word of blending that is so important to us in Bordeaux. As we have a wide variety of terroirs and a wide variety of grapes and rootstocks, of course, to me, I put the picture. I don't know if you see a shade of people behind the screen, but terroir is of course so important and reflects in this wine. But at the end, it's as well blending and people that matter as well in this wine.
What a delicious wine.
Sorry?
I said, what a delicious wine. And I think, you know, when you look at Sauvignon Blanc from around the world, a lot of people sell New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc or Sancerre, or, you know, they'll occasionally have a Cru Classé Bordeaux on the list. But this wine, to me, it's got this beautiful like lime juice. I mean, it's tart, but it isn't sour. It's got herbal notes, but it isn't green. It's beautifully balanced because of the lees contact. It's got a great texture. Really, really easy to drink. And, you know, suggested retail price $10.99, which is, you know, crazy in a store. And you think about the value of this wine and the you know, the smoothness of the wine. We did have a question here. They wondered how many years you've been using screw cap only for the United States market, and do you do that anywhere else, or is it just United States?
Yes, it's interesting. I think my father started at least 20 years ago, which was at that time very unusual. What I find interesting, it's in France, it's the only country where we can't sell any screw cap. Still, cork is really a demand from consumers. But in other markets, export markets, even in Europe, For example, the UK, Ireland, Germany, Belgium, we use a screw cap. And the other interesting thing, I think, is that the US and Canada are the only two countries where we can sell clear bottles, because you would find, so in Germany, it would be the same screw cap with green bottle, because for European markets, clear bottle with a white wine would might be a sweet wine, which is less and less true, but still a reality. So in France, it would be a green bottle with a cork, very traditional. And but personally, I love this bottle.
Fantastic. And again, super, super delicious. And I think people need to note that this is one of the great areas of the world where Sauvignon Blanc grows at an unbelievable price. You know, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, high price. You know, Sancerre, expensive. So this is pretty cool that we can find these beautiful wines from Entre deux Mers and other places in Bordeaux at such a beautiful price that are so well made. Any other comments, Greg, before we move on to our last wine of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I love wines like this to have on the buy the glass list, because they get a lot of their texture not from oak and not from a lot of mallow. So for example, you have a buy the glass list, say you have your Pinot Grigio that's light and fresh and C'est la vie, and you know, you have maybe a couple Chardonnays and, you know, some other wines, but there's always such a place for wine that comes in at a great price that has this beautiful textural component backing it up, that's not coming from oak, that's coming from the variety. And I think Bordeaux Blanc's really perfect for that. And, you know, for guests that wouldn't maybe be the kind that drink Bordeaux Blanc all the time and go for a bottle, springing for a glass, I think's an easy call. And so that's why I love having wines like these on the by the glass list.
And that Semillon really makes it pop, that lemon waxiness with the combination of the kind of the pineapple and grapefruit juice of Sauvignon Blanc really makes a great glass of wine. Thanks so much, Pauline. And really great presentation. So our last wine today, we are going to go to the Medoc, and we are going to talk about Château Loudenne. And Greg, can you take us there, please?
Absolutely. So yeah, we are going to head up. Keep in mind, this is we're coming from Entre deux Mers. We're basically going up the Garonne River, through Graves, through Pessac-Léognan. We're going through the city of Bordeaux. As I mentioned earlier, absolutely amazing place. Really love that city. And then head up through the Haut-Medoc, where we have the communal appellations. There we can see all lined up. This way going, the direction we're going, we have Margaux, Saint-Julien, Pauillac, Saint-Eustache, and Haut-Medoc. These Haut-Medoc wines I'm a huge fan of, because you can get some pretty incredible value. The Site de Vin has always been a place I've wanted to go. My sole trip to Bordeaux, and I really need to make it back, but was in 2015, and the museum wasn't open yet, but really a sight to see, and definitely an architectural wonder. It's high on the list for next time in Bordeaux. And headed up there, we can see this is really, you know, prime territory for Cabernet Sauvignon, right? But the Medoc, one of the most famous wine regions in the world. Château Loudenne, towards the northern side of this, 132 acres, natural estate, and really interesting to check out. I tasted this wine a little bit and pretty excited about it, and so excited to hear a little bit more.
Well, excellent. This is, again, a very historical property. Been there since 1670. They have 132 acres, like you said, on the banks of the Gironde. They have a 17th century country house, again, built in 1670. It's pink. It's called the Pink Castle. They have their own port, which is very unusual. I think they're the only ones that have a port, so they can export and have their own access to ships. It was owned by the Gilby family in the, I think, 1800s, who were English and planted a unbelievable rose garden. So the rose gardens are still there. The roses on all the bottles. And we have Philippe de Poyferré with us today to talk about this wine. Philippe is an agricultural engineer, an enologist, an expert in general management and financial management of wineries. His family owns a property in Armagnac, and he's going to tell us about this historical and beautiful estate in Bordeaux.
Thanks, Jay. Hello to everybody. So tough task to introduce Loudenne, 350 years of history and wine, 3 years of making in 10 minutes. So just to make a small introduction, I'll share my screen and show you 1 minute of video. I'll share my screen. I'll take over the screen if you don't mind, if I can do it, yes. And I'll share 1 minute of video for you to see. Can you see, okay, the video?
Yes.
Okay, so I cannot launch it. Yes, I can. So this is Loudenne. Shows this is the vineyard. We are just close by the Gironde River, as you can see. So I stop there and I'll take over my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so this is, sorry, I did the wrong. It's hidden by, okay. So Loudenne, as you understand, it's as you can see from the video, is a very unique place. It's definitely up north the Médoc area, and it's a typical. This is a chateau, so there is a real chateau on it. It's a 17th century chateau, and it's a very typical chateau, what we call in the Médoc Chartreuse, from that period. It dates back from the 17th century. This is the period of the development of the vineyard in the Médoc area. So it's one of the oldest, I would say, chateau in the Médoc area. It's pink, as you said, something very unusual, and it's quite well known in the Médoc area as being the pink chateau. This is the view from the chateau. So the vineyard, in fact, is on two hills, just on the side of the river. And something special, we are the closest vineyard to the Gironde. And here, as you can see, it's a lot of water. It's 5.5 kilometers wide. And it's salted water. It's the ocean that is coming in and out. So we have a say, going back to terroir, we have a say in Médoc saying, il n'est de grand terroir qui ne regarde le fleuve, which I translated as all the best Médoc vineyards look onto the river. It has a, terroir is not only the soil. It's a general term meaning climate, soil, people, and the right varietal in the right place. Here, the most important thing is the Gironde. It has an impact on the weather. In spring and fall, it's warmer, which means that in spring we don't frost. We had no frost this year, for example. It was 4 degrees in Loudenne, when it was below 0 in everywhere else, I would say, in the area. And in the fall, it's the same. It's warmer, which means that we can get our grapes ripe for a longer period of time than other people. So it's very interesting to have this. And in summer, it's the opposite. It's a cooling system. It's a big cooling system, which means that the global heating is not impacting us as everybody else. For the 2 past years, we had summers that were very, very warm, very hot, in fact. And you can have 5 degrees difference cooler in Loudenne than elsewhere. And in fact, it's important because the warmer you get, the more difficult it is to have the right flavor in the grape. That's why the very hot areas are not good to produce good wine. The other thing is, this is a vineyard, okay? It's located on 2 hills of gravels. This is a red vineyard, okay? We have 2 hills of gravels and we have another plot that is clay and limestone, but here it's gravel and clay. So it's very similar to Saint-Estèphe. And in fact, we have the 2 last hills of gravels on the estuary, on the Gironde. We also produce, we don't going to taste it, but we produce a white wine. And the vineyard of white is right there on the side. And it's clay and limestone, and it's between the 2 hills and the river. We also produce, well, the white is also sold in the US. By the way, our wines are imported by Maison Marque et Domaine, which is Schroeder Champagne subsidiary importer in the US. And the red Médoc and the white Loudenne are imported in the US. As a proof of what I say, it's quite easy, I would say. All the best chateaus, if some of you went to the Médoc area, all the best are just on the side of the river. And when you go south to north, you have in Margaux, you have Margaux and Palmer that are just on the side of the river. In Saint-Julien, you have Bechevel, Ducru-Beaucaillou, and Léoville-Lascaz. After that, you have Latour, Montrose in Saint-Estèphe, Lafont-Rocher, Saucian-d'Aumalais, and Loudenne, which is right there. And we have the 2 last hills of gravels. Another thing that is important in Loudenne is we took the decision to go to be environmental friendly. So this is something that we started in 2017, and we are certified by the French government as being high environmental value certified at the highest level by the French government since the 2017 vintage. And we convert our vineyard to organic since 2019. So, of course, we have a unique terroir and we want to protect it. And that's definitely the idea behind this different certification. In terms of consumers, it's a survey that has been done by Wine Intelligence. It's 2019 figures. It has been done, published in 2020. Saying today in the US, you have 51% of the consumers in the US that are concerned, that are buying, willing to buy, would prefer to buy if they have the choice, an organic wine to more conventional wine. And 47% are saying the same about environmental vineyards compared to conventional one. So it's an important pressure also from the consumer. Worldwide, you see the figures are a little lower. And what is interesting, it's the younger generation that is pushing us to that. And I really believe they're right. That's why I am doing it. We can go to the tasting. So Loudenne, Le Château, Médoc, Red Médoc, you are tasting the 2015. In fact, on the ocean at the present time, we have 2016 that is coming in the US, but not yet available. It will be available for the other 3 years. The blend is 50% Cabernet Sauvignon and 50% Merlot. It's very classic. It's very classic Médoc. Vinification, very classic. Aging 100% in barrel. Renewed new oak every 3 years, so it's renewed by third, and it's only light toasted barrels because I'm not willing to have the oak taste given to the wine. Mainly the oak is used in order to get some some evolution of the wine and giving it aging ability, and not to give the wood taste to the wine. So I put here some comments in terms of tasting. You have in the mouth, what you're going to find is red fruits and black fruits. Mainly, Merlot is giving red fruit flavors, strawberry, raspberry flavors, and black fruits are coming from Cabernet Sauvignon, blackberry, blackcurrant. And after that, the fruit flavor is coming from the grape. And after that, the other flavors that you find afterwards in the mouth, such as violet, chocolate, some wood also, is coming from the aging in the barrels. So in fact, you have two kind of flavors in a wine that is aged in the barrels. You have the fruit flavors that is coming from the grapes that will disappear with time. That's why I would say wine that is not aged in barrel doesn't age. And you have also the other flavors that are coming from the aging in barrels, and that will develop over time. So that's why it's important not to drink a Médoc too young. Médoc too young, you'll get the fruit and you'll get some harshness coming from the tannins. You have to wait a little to, something. I believe that, for example, a wine that good vintages at the present time are in between 2014 and 2016 because you have both flavors at the same time. So it was short. I would say what I suggest, I can speak for hours about Loudenne. What I suggest, if you want more information, is to go to our website, Château Loudenne website. We have a lot of information available. I wanted to go direct to the point, to the most important things about our wine. And I'm open, of course, to any questions.
Thank you, Philippe. This is really, really enjoyable and a great way to finish this tasting. Delicious, like you say, not overly oaky, really, really well integrated. The combination of the Cabernet and the Merlot, we get the red and black fruits. There's a little hint of like chocolate mint here that goes along with the texture and the chocolate and the cocoa flavors. Really, really great to drink. Love the label. It's traditional and modern at the same time. It's really cool packaging. I think it really stands out in its own right. Just, classy. 15 is great. And now you say you have 16 on the water now, where a lot of people are shipping 18s, 17s. Do you hold back in the winery itself, or is it market demand?
No, we hold back in the chateau itself. In fact, as you know, a lot of Médoc chateaux are selling to the Bordeaux wine merchants en primeur. So they are, the process is going very fast. We don't go through the Bordeaux wine merchant system. We go with exclusive distributors in different markets. So we have an exclusive distributor for the US. We have one in Japan. We have, and so they can work without, having, someone that is down cutting them and selling cheaper and all that kind of things. So it's important. And so we can sell our wines when they are ready to drink also. That's definitely the idea, is not to sell. Of course, the US market is pushing us to sell wine younger and younger, but I'm holding back. It's a fight every year, I'm trying to hold back, because I think the wine is better like that, and we are different from other wines from Bordeaux because they are selling too young.
Well, that's exactly a good point. And the fact that you were at Maison Marques and Domaine is an excellent representative for you here in America, which is something I wish, or some of the other states wish they probably had. The system itself is flawed in certain ways. It becomes pricing competition. There's a lot of things that happen. It's hard to get the wines. There was a question from one of the people that they said, can you expand on what you mean about wines that aren't aged in barrels won't age? Are you talking about the fruit tannins versus oak tannins?
Yes. Something, vinification is a process where we extract the flavors, from the grapes. We know that, the flavors that is coming from the grape is something that disappears with aging. So when you have a fruity wine, like a Beaujolais Nouveau is a good example. You keep it for 1 year, and after that, you have no flavors anymore. You have a lot of wines like that are intended to be drunk wine because they have the fruit flavor only. The fact that in Médoc, and in Bordeaux, in a lot of areas on the right bank also, we age our wine in barrels. It's giving them the ability to age and developing, because when you keep the wine in the bottles, the fruit flavor disappears, but other flavors, are appearing. Aging a wine in barrel is not extracting wood taste. That's the wrong way to do it, to think about it. Extracting wood taste is an easier way. You put, wood chips in the tank, and you get the wood taste. No, it's a long process of in between 12 to 16 months, where you have the oxygen that goes through the wood, and that giving the wine the ability to develop new flavors with aging in the bottle, because it's in the bottle, you have an exchange through the cork with oxygen to the wine, and you have the evolution of the wine, and you prepare that by an aging in barrel. That's the idea. Okay, so we have the trend today to have fruit flavor wines, and it's easy to make. Aging a wine in barrel is a traditional Médoc and Saint-Emilion and Pomerol process that gives the ability of the wine to develop other flavors with aging in the bottle and ability to age. I don't know if I answered exactly what you want, but you have.
I think so.
In
And
French,
also,
we say we have arôme primaire and arôme secondaire, and arôme tertiaire. That's the idea.
Excellent. And, it's copied, the methods that you've used in Bordeaux are now copied in all the wine regions of the world. So definitely doing something right. Great way to finish this. Greg, you have any comments on the wine or a follow-up here?
No, I think it's great. I think the combination of holding back an extra couple years is, one, very admirable. I started making a small amount of wine, and as a sommelier, all of a sudden I'm saying, well, wait a second, we might have to market this sooner than I wanted. And so it's admirable when you see an estate like yours that's holding the wines back until they're really ready to drink. And I think that, combined with this really beautiful, approachable kind of generosity to the wine, with holding it back a little bit, I think is really perfect because, in a wine list, you don't really want a bottle of wine under $100 to be tough as nails, right? You want it to be giving. You want it to to be a really rewarding wine to drink. And I think this hits it all in spades and knocks it out of the park. So,
well, all in all, great day today, ladies and gentlemen. We have a little bit of time for a question and answer session. If you have any questions, someone asked for the suggested retail price on all the wines. The Ernie Lawson Wehlener Sonnenuhr suggested retail price is $24.99. The Van Winning Sauvignon Blanc suggested retail price $21.99. The Ziereisen Pinot Noir or Burgunder is also $21.99. The Château Briot suggested retail price $14.50. The Château Haut-Rian Bordeaux Blanc $10.99. And then the Château Loudenne suggested retail price $29.90. And of course, these wines, as we're all in the business, there's probably deals on them for wines by the glass if you're in restaurants and things like that are marked in there. But I think all in all, unbelievable value wines and quality wines today. So really, really great collection. Thanks for all the winemakers and producers here to jump in and help on this seminar for Clink Different. And if anyone wants to jump in here and talk or have any final comments, I know we're running a little bit late today, but please do so, and we can try to follow up with any questions you might have or any comments you might have. I guess we're good. But so thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed the wines. I drank too much because the wines were so delicious. I couldn't help myself. I guess I got a question that did pop up. Someone said, I love this seminar, but what would love the final thoughts on what the two regions have in common. Well, a commonality, I think we talked about in the beginning, is that there's a connotation between both Bordeaux and Germany that the German wines only produce Riesling and Bordeaux only makes $100 bottles of Bordeaux that are, Cru Classé, which isn't the case. Both areas, Bordeaux is the largest fine wine area in France, and they make sweet wine, sparkling wines, rosés, etc., and all value. I mean, there's value and money in Bordeaux, and I think you see the same kind of connotation in Germany. They don't just make Riesling, and they don't make just Zeller, Schwarzkatz, or Liebfrau milk. They make Pinot Noir, Pinot Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and all sorts of other great wines. And there's value. I think the commonality here, there's so much value. When we look at American wines these days and what we're charging for certain wines, 100 plus a bottle, 50 plus a bottle, no history, nothing to back them up. When we look at the history of these two areas, they both have really, really long and diverse histories. And I love talking about history of wine and the sense of place. So they both have that. They both have great terroir, and they both have great microclimates that grow fantastic wines. Any other additional comments on that, Greg?
Yeah, I think both regions too. There's in many cases there's the newer generation that's taking on and really guiding the regions into the future and doing interesting things. So it's pretty amazing. They have the history, but nowadays, I mean, there's so many interesting things happening in these really classic regions that, if you only look at the, maybe the benchmarks or the extraordinary, like blue chip type wines that are, in some ways a lot better to trade on the open market than they are actually to drink because they're just so expensive, that there's an amazing amount of interesting things that are happening in both regions as producers are, stepping outside of the boxes that they maybe have had over the past couple hundred years and doing experiments and really moving the region forward in these exciting modern wines.
Well, excellent. Someone also says, why don't we see more sparkling wine from Bordeaux in our market? I think this is basically sparkling wine is a tough sell. To me, it's you don't really see much your Cremant to Bordeaux in the market. I don't know if any of the Bordelais want to jump in here, but there's not a lot of sparkling wine from Bordeaux, if any. You also don't see the off-dry wines. There's an excellent selection of wines that are just slightly sweet. They're so good with food that we don't see here in the American market, and I think it's probably just because people don't understand them. But Pauline or Philippe, you can jump in on that question.
Yeah, frankly, on my side, I've been producing Crémant since 2019, so it's coming to the US, but it's a very small category in Bordeaux, which is growing fast. So I'm sure you will get some, but at least for me, I've been producing it for the first time in 2019, so vintage 2019, so available at least 1 year later, so December 2020. So it will arrive in the US, and I guess it was up to now something that was really made for the European market, but as it's growing, I guess it will come. It will be bigger volumes managing to reach the US market, but I don't know if Jonathan has something.
I think you will see more and more sparkling from Bordeaux because the production is increasing in the region. So for now it's mostly sold on European market because we are not we are not a region where American importers think about for bringing in sparkling wines. They probably think about first about probably Burgundy, probably Alsace, probably Loire. But in Bordeaux, there is a trend to produce more sparkling, and you're definitely gonna see more and more coming to US in the future.
Is the main varietal Sauvignon Blanc, or is it some of the other varietals are allowed?
No, I would say that usually it's mostly made of Sémillon, which is more neutral in terms of to make the base wine. And then what we have as well is Crément Rosé made of Cap Franc, which is interesting as well. So
Excellent. Well, thank everybody. I hope everyone out there drinks more Bordeaux, drinks more German wine, drinks more wine, researches wines. Thanks everybody. I know you got days and nights to go on, so I just want to thank everybody and enjoy the rest of your night or afternoon or morning. And let's get on with it. So thanks so much.
thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
everyone.
Goodbye to everybody.
Cheers.
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 My glass is empty.
All right. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.